What's up, Packer fans? Welcome into the Pack a Day podcast here on YouTube. It is Tuesday, one day closer to the NFL draft. My name is Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. A variety of news and notes to discuss today. I'm probably actually not going to get too far into the draft because, simply put, there was a lot going on, including a Brian Gutekunst press conference that reviewed a variety of different topics, and then also an interesting name that came up in trade talks, which was none other than Julio Jones, which is interesting if you're a Packer fan, maybe not for the reason that you're thinking, because I think you probably know, and I know, and we all know, that Julio Jones is not going to be a Packer in 2021. It's not going to happen. If you want to take a look, first of all, at the salary cap structure, he's set to make $15.3 million this year for the team that acquires him, fully guaranteed, and then has 2 years left on his deal. You know the type of cap situation that Green Bay's in. You know that it's insanely tight. And you might be saying, well, Andy, the salary cap is a myth, which I hate that saying more than anything because it's not. And teams always have the ability to create more space. That has some level of truth to it. We've seen it happen with the Chiefs over and over and over again. But there is a point where the rubber meets the road. It's like a credit card. You can always open up another credit card. There's a lot of times where it's really not a great idea to do so because you pay for it down the road. So if you're asking me, is there a way that the Packers can acquire Julio Jones? The answer is technically yes. They could give up a second round pick. That seems to be what the going rate is for Julio at this age and where he's at in his career and with the money that's left on his deal. Second round pick for Julio Jones, pick him up, tag team him with Davante Adams, Aaron Jones in the backfield, Tonyan at tight end, Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, by the way. It seems like a pretty good way to win a Super Bowl, right? But it's not quite that easy. It never really is. And I think if we're being honest with ourselves, we know that that's probably not the best way to go about things. If you want to talk about going all in, that would mean a massive all in for Green Bay this season and probably a major sell-off for the Packers next season. Again, they would have to take on $15.3 million fully guaranteed, and there's not many ways that you can work around that if you're Green Bay. He has 3 years left on his deal, and he's not going to want to restructure that so that you kind of move cap around. So it's basically a pure $15.3 million. Now, if Green Bay were to acquire Julio Jones in this insane hypothetical, what they would almost assuredly have to do, because they can't afford him for more than 1 year, even if they went that crazy route, they would trade him next year for something probably lesser in return based off of basic economics. And then the $2 million that would be owed by the team that they would trade him to. So it would ultimately end up being a 1 year, $15.3 million fully guaranteed deal. Easy enough for me to say. So again, could they do it? Theoretically, yes, but you have to remember that where Green Bay's at, not only does that $15.3 million for 1 year of Julio Jones have a massive cost attached to it, but that second round pick, young, cheap, controllable talent that Green Bay is going to need in abundance over the course of the next couple of years because they've continued to pay some of these high-level players and need to continue to pay some of these high-level players like Davante Adams and Jair Alexander, who will both still need new deals and will get paid arguably the top wide receiver money in the NFL and arguably the top cornerback money in the NFL. So they already have a ton of money tied up, and they have two insane contracts still to give out. Having another $15.3 million tied in Julio Jones doesn't make a ton of sense. It sounds fun. If you're playing Madden for 1 year and the future of your GM job is not on the line, sure, maybe it, again, would be something you could go for. In reality, not something that Green Bay could or should do with any level of realism and expectations to be able to consistently run a team and be competitive over the course of the next 3, 4, 5 years. So don't expect that to happen, but this is still a major topic if you're a Packer fan. The reason being, who is likely to acquire a player like Julio Jones? Contending teams, right? If you're Green Bay, the biggest thing you can cheer for at this point is that Julio Jones stays in Atlanta. Now, you could argue that maybe if he goes to an AFC team like a Baltimore, right? Like, you're going to have to face a good team, whether it's Baltimore or Kansas City, if you work your way to the Super Bowl anyway. So maybe it's not that big of a difference. You know you're in for a fight in that situation. But ultimately, he goes to a contender and makes Green Bay's, trip to a potential Super Bowl, whether whether he's moved in the NFC and they have to face him on their way, or whether they get there and he ends up being there in the Super Bowl. It just could make things more challenging, and it makes a contending team stronger. So In the meantime, if you can keep him on Atlanta, a team that's not expected to be a major competitor in the NFC this upcoming season, I think that's probably your best case scenario. So unfortunately, as a Packer fan, you probably don't get to cheer the option of Green Bay trading for Julio Jones, but you can cheer for him to remain on Atlanta and hopefully be mostly a non-factor on an Atlanta team that still has quite a bit of rebuilding to do. All right, let's get to the major topic. The topic that everyone wanted to talk about in the press conference for the most part on Monday with Brian Gutekunst. The topic that will be in every Packers site and every Packers media outlet and everything else is the, Brian Gutekunst, Aaron Rodgers contract extension, renegotiation, et cetera, et cetera. That's really been the talk of the offseason. Now, before I get there, I don't want to talk Aaron Rodgers contract the week of the draft, right? I just don't. I want to talk about prospects. I want to talk about players, but there's literally no more important topic than Aaron Rodgers in the future of his quarterback play in Green Bay. It's just, there's no decision that will be made this entire offseason. Not what pick they have, not how they spent their free agent dollars. Nothing matters as much as how they handle that Aaron Rodgers contract this offseason. Because no matter what they do, it's insanely telling. If they extend him, that extends his contract. That makes Aaron Rodgers happy. The quarterback, as Brian Gutekunst say, for the foreseeable future today. That all happens for Rodgers. Well, that puts a fork in the Jordan Love plans for the foreseeable future. And that's telling in and of itself. If they just do some small restructures, that means Green Bay's clearing a little bit of cap, but not committing long-term to Aaron Rodgers. And if they do nothing, that really leaves Pandora's box open to whether or not they want to be able to move on sooner rather than later. So no matter what they do, it sends a message to either Aaron Rodgers, to Jordan Love, to the team, to the fans, etc. So this is a major, not just talking point, but it's a major decision that Green Bay has to make. And I've been pretty clear throughout this offseason as to what I think Green Bay's trying to do. Now, before I get to that, Brian Gutekunst did mention that there are contracts that he still needs to work on, that they still need to work on, and that this is likely going to, he imitated that this is likely going to be one of those deals that needs to have some work done on it. So in the next couple days, in the next couple months, maybe they completely redo Rodgers' contract, maybe they extend him, bump up a ton of guaranteed money. And this is all much ado about nothing. Although, again, that still has ramifications for the future of the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, of course, but mostly Jordan Love if they do that. So that's still a topic, but it becomes much less of a talking point over the course of the next couple seasons if that does take place and they extend Rodgers and give him that money. But I've been very clear, again, all offseason. In my opinion, Green Bay does not know if and when they want to move to Jordan Love. And how could they? How could they possibly know at this point? They've never seen him in a preseason game. He's been a number 3 quarterback in practice, which means he likely got very few practice reps. And the ones that he did were probably with the scout team and not running even their offense. Even if he looked phenomenal in practice every day, even if he looked like a Greek god, the greatest quarterback of all time, you're still going to want to know by seeing him play in the preseason. Practice is one thing. Games are completely different. And you also have to remember, he had no preseason, no rookie minicamp, no minicamp, no OTAs. He had some training camp. And again, he was the number 3 quarterback in camp. And there weren't a ton of reps to go around because they were so squeezed for time, and Tim Boyle was the backup. So with Rodgers getting the lion's share of the reps and Boyle getting the backup reps, there's just not a ton of snaps there. And again, no game action whatsoever. So even if they feel pretty good about what he did in practice, it is so insanely limited and never even in a preseason game. I don't care who you are in that building and what you've seen at practice. You cannot be confident in a decision of we're going to move on from Aaron Rodgers and we're going to move to Jordan Love at this exact date and time in the future at this point. You at least want to see him in some preseason games. You at least want to see how he progresses in year 2 as a quarterback. There are a multitude of questions that Jordan Love would still need to answer, even for a team that spent a first-round pick and is insanely hopeful that Jordan Love is that guy. There's just no way you can possibly know. However, my read on it up until this point, now again, this could change tomorrow if a brand new deal is done for Aaron Rodgers. My read on it up until this point is that while Green Bay doesn't know if and when that transition will take place next year, the following year, the year after that, etc., it very much seems like they want to keep that option open. And that's not necessarily the wrong way to go about things. Leaving yourself out is a good way to go about things when you're an NFL GM. Backing yourself into a corner and only giving yourself one option and that's it can get you in trouble insanely quick. So it's a little bit painstaking right now or painful, I guess I should say, but it could very well be the right decision because we don't know if there's going to be a decline for Aaron Rodgers. We don't know if there's going to be an injury for Aaron Rodgers. He's getting closer to that age of 40. And yes, Tom Brady has been a freak in that regards and being able to play at a high level. Pretty much every other quarterback in the history of the NFL has not been able to do that. So they're keeping their options open where if Rodgers declines, if he has a major injury, or if Jordan Love just looks freaking amazing in practice, preseason, maybe even he gets in a game like Rodgers did against the Cowboys and he looks great, that they have the ability to move on from Rodgers and transition to Jordan Love. And that's it. To me, that's all it is at this point. It's not that it's going to happen. It's not that it will happen, but they want the option to do it if it's the best option for Green Bay. So that's still my read on it. That was my read prior to Monday and Brian Gutekunst's draft press conference. That's my read on it now. It's not set in stone either way. Maybe Rodgers plays a while. Maybe he's traded next offseason. But until we know more about Jordan Love and we see Aaron Rodgers again and see if he's able to continue that MVP type play, it's just impossible to know. Even if you're the GM of the Green Bay Packers, Brian Gutekunst himself, I just don't think you can know at this point in time. And again, I do think that keeping that option open is smart. Now, we can rewind and go back. And my biggest criticism of the Jordan Love pick isn't the player. It's not that they valued quarterback that much, because I think it's the most important position in all of sports. But the optics of it and the constant conversations of it and the media firestorm about it and all of those things that consistently come up that Rodgers has to answer questions about, that throws a fog into Jordan Love's future with the team, like all of that just gets really foggy. And these are the consistent questions that are going to come up if you're the Packers and while the two coexist on the team. And it could still end up really, really well. We don't know. We saw it happen with Rodgers, right? But we also saw with Rodgers and Favre that even though the result ended up amazing, transitioning to Aaron Rodgers, the process was painful. And we're seeing that again, where the process of going through this as a fan is just not fun, right? You don't want to have to think about Aaron Rodgers playing for another team, or the Packers trading Aaron Rodgers, or releasing Aaron Rodgers, or Rodgers being upset with the franchise because they're not willing to commit to him long term and maybe going in a different direction. Or, those are just, it's not fun, right? So the process is painful. It could still churn out an amazing quarterback in Jordan Love, and I don't even know how many decades, 5 decades of insane quarterback play. But until then, these questions will continue to rise up. It's going to continue to be a major point of discussion. It's going to be a major topic, even in a draft week where the main point of discussion should be, players Green Bay is going to be selecting and taking in the draft. So I don't know. Much ado about nothing. Brian Gutekunst said Aaron is our guy. In the NFL, that doesn't mean much. Until the guaranteed money is on the line, that the only thing that speaks volumes is the money in the bottom line, and guaranteed money specifically. They put a ton of guaranteed money into Rodgers over the next 3-4 seasons, then he's their guy for the foreseeable future. If a year from now, 2 years from now, they still have the ability to get out of that contract, then it will continue to remain an option, and we'll see what they do. 2 other quick notes. They did mention that Jair Alexander, they expect to exercise his 5th-year option, which was probably one of the easiest moves that he will ever make as a GM. And the only thing that would change that is that they got a long-term deal done prior to that, which I do not see happening. And then that David Bakhtiari is recovering well from his ACL and they potentially even think that he's well ahead of schedule. Would not rule out the potential that he's ready to go for the season opener. He didn't say that he would or anything like that, just said he wouldn't put anything by David Bakhtiari to be ready by week 1. So we'll see. Overall, good news on Jair, good news on David Bakhtiari. Julio Jones will not be a Packer, and we still just don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, but we do have a draft to look forward to this weekend and Thursday and Friday and Saturday, and it's going to be amazing, and we're going to end up with probably 8 or more new Green Bay Packers and then a ton of undrafted free agents, and I could not be more excited. Join me along the way. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already. I'll be right back here tomorrow, as I am every single day, 365 days a year. But until next time, and as always, you know the rest. Go Pack Go.